aware of that allegation?
There is no witch hunt on any of those officials.
The sergeant is now carrying a white paper bag. Unfortunately for us, it's not transparent, so as we can see what type of chocolate is in there.
Evidence before the Madlanga Commission, the ad hoc committee. Will it lead to arrests? It's topical, and it starts right now. A very good evening to you, South Africa, those watching around the world. My name is Blaine Herman, and this is It's Topical. Arrest them now. What on earth are you waiting for? Easier said than done, right? It's complicated. I will explain. 2 words, urgency and thoroughness. 2 words used by President Cyril Ramaphosa when he addressed the nation back in July on the establishment of the Madlanga Commission. Now, he said it was critical that these matters be attended to with the necessary urgency and thoroughness. We know that the Commission will make findings and recommendations for criminal prosecutions, for disciplinary actions and institutional reform, and will also consider prima facie evidence relating to the involvement of individuals currently employed within law enforcement and or intelligence agencies. But here's one of the more, I think, important parts. Take a listen.
The Commission will have the power to refer matters for immediate investigation and urgent decisions on prosecution, taking into account the nature of the allegations and the evidence the Commission will uncover.
So the question then becomes, after hearing all the evidence so far, at what point do law enforcement act? What evidence will allow the Commission to exercise its power to refer matters for immediate criminal investigation? We have gathered a couple of good, sound legal minds to break this down for us tonight. I want to look at process and possible strategy. Why? There are no shortages of allegations and information in the public discourse, but, and it's a but with a capital B, the most onerous task for law enforcement agencies is to turn such information into evidence that will be admissible in court, that will stand the legal test. How difficult of a task is this? This is the basic principle, right? You can only act if there is sufficient evidence, if your evidence holds up in court. So the question then is, what constitutes sufficient evidence? It leads us to the umbrella question of the week, and we're asking you, do you think the evidence emerging from the Madlanga Commission, as well as the ad hoc committee, is sufficient for law enforcement agencies to take action? We would love to hear your thoughts. We are opening up the lines as well. Tonight, 011-714-0677-7879, 011-714-0677-7879. I want to chat to you in a short while. Let's walk and talk, get you some context. As always, that number again, 011-714-0677-7879. Give us a call. Tell us what you think. What more answers are you looking for from testimony still to come? Love to also hear your thoughts at SABC News_TV. Perspective coming up. All right, I want to tee up the discussions for you and remind you about some of the big takeaways from testimonies this week. We have no shortage, as I said, of allegations. Crime Intelligence Head Dumisani Khumalo was in the hot seat, putting forward a number of allegations. Testimony suggesting that suspended Deputy National Police Commissioner Shadrach Sabia and others are allegedly linked to criminal syndicates, right? He also goes on to detail the role of one Sergeant Nkosi, who allegedly served as the link between Sibiya and businessman Katiso Molefe. Have a look.
General Shibiri was not wrong when he gave us the information long before that there are officers within Toms of Hawks that are working together with the cartel. The evidence will be talking to the link that has been identified through Sergeant Nkosi, that is linking the office or Lieutenant General Sibiya and the cartel. We notice that the sergeant is now carrying a white paper bag. Unfortunately for us, it's not transparent, so as we can see what type of chocolate is in there.
Then, from the capital, Pretoria, to Cape Town, the ad hoc committee. You heard this acronym quite a bit this week. IDAC, the Investigating Directorate Against Corruption. Its head, Advocate Andrea Johnson, facing MPs' questions, right? Making the point that IDAC was not involved in a witch hunt against certain police officers. This is what she had to say.
There is an allegation that IDAC is actively participating in a well-coordinated attack against General Mkhwanazi, General Masemula, and General Khumalo. Are you aware of that allegation?
There is no witch hunt on any of those officials.
No witch hunt, she says. In addition, she also addressed allegations around sharing of information with her husband, who works at crime intelligence. Pillow talk gets people killed, she said, adding that that's something they have never done. Now, Johnson also rejected allegations that IDAC is acting out of bounds and says that's Dumisani Khumalo's arrest by her unit was in line with its mandate. Now, there was also something Julius Malema brought up, the issue that there was a story about prima facie evidence in IDAC's possession against Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi as well as General Masemula. And IDAC is reluctant to charge. That's what he says. Johnson's response was that those allegations don't come out of the Section 27 referral. Now, I hear you asking, what is a Section 27 referral? I'll put it to the better minds in a short while. My guess in a short while, get you an explanation, right? So she went on to say that when she took over as ID, there were already corruption matters that had initially fallen within the ambit of IPID. Those IPID investigators who were brought to the ID at the time, she said, came with their cases. So those allegations were corruption allegations that were initially reported at IPID. She went on to say that IDAC is not afraid to act, but they can only act if there are sufficient evidence. Remember what I said initially, right? And just because there's a complaint doesn't make it a criminal charge. And that is why, she says, Mkhwanazi and Masemula have not been arrested for those matters. As I said, I'll get you a bit more in a short while with our guests. I want to flesh that out. I want to talk now about the search and seizures operations and the people who are affected. Senzo Mchunu, police minister, on special leave, handing over his electronic devices to authorities as part of this ongoing probe. Also, the ANC is rejecting Mchunu's request to step aside from party duties. According to the statement from the party, the National Executive Committee discusses the circumstances surrounding Mchunu and agreed that he should continue to perform his organizational tasks while on special leave from his cabinet responsibilities. And the ANC says it will continue to monitor these developments, and the NEC will revisit its discussion should new developments arise that warrant further consideration.
I can confirm that Minister President Mkhunu, who is on special leave, did offer to step aside from all the organizational processes of the ANC in terms of his active participation as an NEC and NWC member. The NWC member, the NWC of the ANC rejected his request on the grounds that he is not yet charged in any court in the Republic of South Africa.
So that, in a nutshell, is the state of play. We will discuss in a short while. Remember that number, 011-714-0677-77879. That's the number to dial. Get dialing. We want to hear, take your comments live on It's Topical. Quick break, discussion coming up. Welcome back. You're watching It's Topical. I want to get straight into the discussions. We're talking about evidence coming out at the Madlanga Commission as well as the ad hoc committee. And how close are we in terms of people actually being arrested? Is that plausible at this stage? I want to introduce my guests. We have the legal minds I was talking to you about, two legal analysts, Advocate Asanda Bleki, as well as Mpumelelo Zikalala, joining us virtually, and political analyst from the Northwest University, Professor Andre Duvenacher. Thank you so much indeed, gentlemen, for joining us. First, maybe I can start with you, Advocate Bleki. The generalized statement or sentiment on the ground from people is that we want action, and we want action yesterday, right? Gives you a sense of urgency. But I wonder how would law enforcement agencies, which is pretty much under the same scrutiny now, is going to balance public expectation with justice?
Well, first of all, let me greet you, Blaine, and I also greet you, your viewers at home. Well, in as far as the public expectations are concerned, there has got to be a level of managing such expectations. And I'm saying this, Blaine, because there are certain structural problems, that are attendant in our criminal justice system that limits the law enforcement officials from taking action that is consequence management that would be pleasing to the public. For instance, we are aware that the Office of the National Public Prosecution is also having similar problems. The other time, the Director of Public Prosecution, Advocate Shamila Patohi, has alluded to something like that as well. And of course, it is there for all to see, in as far as SABs are concerned, that there are serious problem as well there, wherein we see law enforcement officials, and these are senior police officials who are seen to be associated with very dangerous individuals, or individuals which are assumed to be dangerous in society. So I think at this stage, those expectations would have to be managed up until those structural problems are fixed. Yes.
Mr. Zikalala, to an untrained mind like mine, for instance, you hear evidence on a daily basis being given, and you wonder, okay, why can't you act now? Why can't you arrest based on that? Allegations flying back and forth. Help us understand the process of getting evidence that will be admissible to in court.
Maybe let's start with the structures that are involved. Firstly, you have the law enforcement agencies which are in charge of receiving complaints and doing those investigations. Once they've done that, they've got to make sure that the evidence which is collected is in line with what the Constitution is telling us, in line with what the Criminal Procedure Act actually states. So if you collect evidence that can't be admissible in court, that means you've got a dead case, you can't be able to use it. One done and dusted, then they take it to the NPA, which is the second structure that is there, to say to them, please do your own assessment and see if we take this matter in court and you're the one that's going to be standing up and presenting the evidence. Can it suffice? Are we going to be able to come back with a conviction? That means the person is found guilty because there's no other explanation which has been provided by the NPA, which the court ought to believe. And then the last structure is the court themselves, which is the court of law, that says, are you going to be able to receive these cases and be able to deal with it? So that is what is involved in all these three steps which are there. Now, if any of these three structures are not working efficiently. It taints the whole process. Once the matter has not been investigated properly, even the NPA can't save it. Even when it goes to the court, the person is going to be acquitted. If the NPA isn't able to work efficiently, then it's going to fall flat. If the courts are not able to work efficiently in terms of enrolling these matters in time, making sure that there's sufficient court time, making sure that all the resources are there, it then causes this delay in justice, in which for us as members of the public, we then see and say, maybe law enforcement agencies are not doing their work, maybe their courts are grinding at a very slow pace, and you don't have reason to trust our legal system.
Yeah, and it also, the delays, or what is perceived as delays from the public, might be misconstrued, in conspiracy theories as withholding or delaying or dragging feet. Professor Duvenage, I wonder how close we are as a society, just watching from your analysis, to the core issues that are affecting or plaguing law enforcement in this country.
Good evening, Blaine, and colleagues and viewers. Yes, maybe if I can add to what was said about the legal context, I can try and give a bit of a historical political context. And I must first say we are currently, with both the Madlanga Commission as well as the ad hoc committee, busy with an investigation trying to get evidence together. So it's not yet within the active legal processes. Now, if we look at history, what history is telling us with these type of investigations, the Sereti Commission, what we have seen with the Morane Commission, and also with the Zondo Commission with regard to state capture, there's a lack of political will to act. That is the first point. The second point is there are top politicians involved in this process, and that was already identified by the Zondo Commission. And the current two commissions are also indicating that this is not only a matter of state capture, this is a matter of the criminalization of political processes, ending up in what we can say a mafia state, where it becomes difficult to differentiate between your political elite and your criminal elite. And then we also need to add and say that, and this was mentioned by the colleagues earlier, that our criminal justice system is facing its own challenges.
Yes.
And state or political capture is definitely one of them. Capacity is a problem, and political will is a serious problem.
Advocate, the PKTT, crime intelligence appointments, we talk about allegations of criminality among police. Yes. Listening to these testimonies, do you think we've become a different nation from the time we started listening to the testimonies? The fact that seemingly this curtain is being pulled back and we're getting a glimpse into certain things.
Yes, definitely, Blaine. We are becoming a different nation, and perhaps a nation that we would not like to be. And this problem, it has got to be dealt with very efficiently, and it must be dealt with as quick as possible as we can. There's got to be an overhaul of the entire system. That is from the point of making an arrest to a point where sentence and judgment is made. That is all the relevant officials that are involved in the criminal justice system. There's got to be serious reforms that are made in order to avoid a situation where the criminal elements in our society become more powerful to such a point that they are able to stand toe-to-toe with the state itself. There is nothing that suggests that it is not possible that from happening in this country, because we've seen it happening in countries like Mexico, and history also tells us in countries like Colombia, something like this has happened. There is still a lot of opportunity for us to make sure it does not happen, but we have got to act fast in order to make sure that we avoid that situation to become the nation that we would like to be.
Mr. Zigalala, where are these avenues of opportunity that will get us to that better place that I keep on talking about on this program? Where are the gray areas? Maybe I should come in from that point of view. In terms of the commission, in terms of ad hoc, where are the gray areas for you that is preventing us or preventing you from seeing the full picture and saying, okay, the case is now sewn up?
Firstly, it's the powers in terms of the terms of references that have been given to both the ad hoc and the commission. Now, what they are doing is just, to me, they're high-level investigative processes or forums which cannot really take decisions to say go and arrest so and so. So at the end of the day, they are going to be simply recommendations that can be taken or not taken. Yes, you can make noise about it and say, why aren't you implementing them? You'd find that even if they are implemented, it's going to take a while in order for them to do so. Meanwhile, you're not dealing with the real issues. So maybe let me put it in this way. What the Madlanga Commission is dealing with is something that the State Capture Commission should have dealt with in the first place.
Right.
So that commission should have said, deal with the evidence. After hearing what everybody was doing, call the NPA, call the law enforcement agencies, ask them, what's preventing you from doing this arrest? We would have got this question of what we're hearing now back then. Now, what you have done is wasted all this time waiting for another commission to be created. And even after we have done that, we'd find that unless we deal with the structural challenges that are there, we are going to have more issues. What we have done, even what previous commissions have said, we are adding more structures to law enforcement agencies that are there. What do you have now? SIU, you have the Hawks, you then have IDEC, which is also there. And then you ask them, aren't you duplicating things? With the SAPS are also there. So it is not a problem of the structures not being there. It's the problem of people that can be able to play an enforcement role positively, stopping all those things from being implemented, because we do not have people which are much dedicated. Maybe from the skills training type of view, or maybe people that are saying, I'm not willing to do or go an extra mile. I'd rather protect my family than to go all out. But we must focus on those things in order for us to be much more efficient. And after all is said and done, we must ask ourselves this question. This information has been available in the hands or in the desk of someone. What have they done about it so that they're able to bring the matter to a close? If you can't find an answer, then you must look and maybe employ other individuals in those positions. They will do better.
Right. Prof, what sort of picture is being painted about our law enforcement? Is it a case of good guys with a few bad apples, or bad apples with a few good guys?
Well, the latter rather than the former. If you look at the findings of the Zondo Commission, and specifically the role political elites, and now I'm referring to the ANC context, is playing within this bigger game. And maybe it's important at this point to differentiate between the executive, where the problem is lying, what we are talking about, the legal processes on the other side, and the legislative process. The ad hoc committee is functioning within the, the legislative side of things. The the Madlanga Commission is functioning within the executive, because they will report to the president. And in that sense, there's a conflict of interest. You have a president that is implicated, and you have a commission that is reporting to the president. And at the same time, we have dysfunctional structures. If you look at some of the allegations coming from both these investigations, it is clear that we have serious challenges on many levels within the criminal justice system, not only the National Prosecution Authority, but also other sections of the criminal justice system. And I believe that these commissions are sometimes used by politicians to buy time in order to put strategies of survival in place. But what is making this different this time is the fact that the ANC in the 2024 election didn't achieve outright majority. They have 40% of the majority. So it is not that easy to put these under the blanket. It's coming into the open. It's not possible to manipulate. I do not think the issues we are hearing today within the context of the Makwanazi revelations, I don't think this is new. I think there's a long history within the police force. It started around 2003, 2004, around that time, and it just reached the point where it basically exploded into our faces.
Look, Advocate, the President did decide to start or establish this commission. And initially, from the public space as well, there was some skepticism with regards, not another commission, right? But do you think from what you've heard so far and what Professor is saying, that this was a necessary intervention?
Well, it is necessary. It was necessary because of the revelations that are coming out of that commission. Because in order to solve a problem, you at least have got to diagnose the problem and have a sense of an appreciation of the kind of a problem that you are facing. And part of diagnosing that particular problem, it should then tell us as a nation that these types of crimes that are coming out of the commission, perhaps there is a certain level of complexity that maybe, your usual court litigator, general court litigator would not necessarily be capacitated to deal with. That maybe perhaps there is a need to train prosecutors who would specialize in prosecuting these kinds of crime. In fact, there was a proposal which emerged from the Great Zimbabwe University. I just forgot the name of the student that produced that paper. He proposed that, in fact, in Africa, there should be specialized anti-corruption courts, because the corruption problem, it speaks to our safety, first of all, as citizens of our countries. But also, these are issues which are linked to socio-economic realities that we are faced with. Because if there is a picture of a South Africa wherein there is no difference between police officials and criminals, which investors would be interested in coming in and investing in our country? I mean, for instance, in Cape Town, we have seen that, South African business people, they are forced to pay, extortion money to criminals. These are business people who are trying to build a livelihood for themselves and employ their fellow citizens. But this problem, wherein police officials are involved in criminal activities, is making that impossible. So perhaps there's got to be some training in as far as dealing with these matters, yes, in a more effective way.
And those allegations are happening in other provinces as well, and it's a dangerous road down to travel if you blur the line between criminal and law enforcement. I want to talk a bit more about this in a short while. 011-714-067, 77879. Get dialing now. I want to take your calls in a short while. Quick break, discussion next. Welcome back. You're watching It's Topical. I just wanted to remind you about the question of the week, and we're asking you, do you think that the evidence emerging from the Madlanga Commission, as well as the ad hoc committee, is sufficient for law enforcement agencies to take action at this stage? We'd love to hear your thoughts at SABC News_TV. We're also opening up the lines 011-714-0677-7879. I understand we have a caller on the line. Molotelo from Johannesburg is on the line. Molotelo, very good evening to you. What's on your mind? Your question to our guest.
Good evening, Blaine, and to the panel. And I think the first thing that we need to recognize is we are starting to look like a pariah state, and not because the world has turned its back on us, but I think because we have turned our institutions into instruments of protections for powerful people. So the same people keep on reappearing in report after report, and still, or minimal happens to them. So my thing is, the recommendations from both the Madlanga and ad hoc committees are going to be interconnected, but the implementation thereof is going to be questioned because of the same political interference, and the same people who are implicated in it are going to appear in it. So my question then really is, how are you then going to fight corruption where impunity is a policy and patronage is the power? So that's really what my question is there.
Well, Lutelo, thank you very much indeed. I'll put it to my guests. Let's go to Sanele from KZN. Sanele, very good evening to you.
Good evening, Plate and your team. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. What's on your mind? What's your question?
Thanks. I want to get to understand from Mr. Zigalala and the professor that anyone can help me here. We're having the ad hoc committee and the Madlanga Committee, of which they are giving us a picture that they are investigating something that you can say it's one.
Oh, did we lose Sanele? All right, let's hope Sanele can call us back. Please do. We really would love to hear your comments. Maybe I'll throw this to Mr. Zigalala. The first question, in terms of impunity for high-level corruption, how do we ensure that impunity for high-level corruption will no longer be a norm in this country, sir?
Well, firstly, it's saying and adopting a no-tolerance view on it, to say if you are corrupt, we are going to make sure that we deal with you. Even if it's just allegations. Remember, political parties, they are the ones that should be leading by example, to say no one is going to stand where our party regala and even stand within our position or party and be accused of any corruption. If there's that level of scrutiny, I don't think anyone would want to gamble with their political career. Second one is finding the right people for the right job. So at the end of the day, it isn't a simple process of filling in positions. It's about performance. So you say to an individual, you are the head of this particular committee, IDEC, the Hawks, the SIU, what are you doing in terms of making sure that there's performance? Then let's move on to the NPA. What are you doing to make sure that there's performance? Let's even move on to the courts to say, what are you doing to make sure that the performance is there, and all the other law enforcement agencies that are there. In South Africa, we do not have a structural problem. We have a problem with people that are supposed to drive the structure. It's like having a car which is very efficient and can work very efficiently. However, not having a driver that will be able to drive the car efficiently or be able to use all the resources that are within the car. So that's what we need to do. Find the right person for the job, and then we'll get the results that you are looking for.
Right. Thank you so much. Sanele is back with us from KZN. Sanele, I hope your line is better now. Let's hear your question.
Hey, let me try to make, I'll just speak briefly. Because I was looking at the issue of the ad hoc and the Madlanga Commission. Is this not a tactically delay of prosecution, whereby you will find that there are two bodies that are investigating one and the same profiling of whatever evidence that is brought in? Thanks, please.
Thanks, Anela. Advocate, maybe I'll give that to you. And look, this was initially a concern that a lot of people have raised before the commission started, in terms of these parallel structures. Explain the fundamentals of it.
Well, the fundamentals of these parallels is that, look, in our country there has got to be a separation of powers. Yeah. Parliamentarians whom we have voted into parliament, they are there to execute the mandate that we have given it to them. On the other hand, the Judicial Commission of Inquiry, led by Justice Madlanga as well, is another separate arm of the state. We must also allow it to do its work. And then, of course, what matters the most is that here there has got to be implementation of the recommendations from both sides. This is the most important thing. And my issue is exactly there on the question of implementation. Right. And of course, Mr. Zigalala is saying that this is not a matter which deals with the issues of structures and everything. Well, I would beg to differ in as far as that issue is concerned. Sitting here, I do believe that Advocate Shamila Batohi is the right person for the job. I'm just not sure if she's driving a very good car that will take us to the destination that we want to go to. Therefore, even if we get the most competent person, if you place that person in an environment wherein whatever effort he or she is trying to put in making sure that those recommendations that would come from both these entities are implemented. Right. If there are some impediments which are structural in nature, it will look like the problem is with her instead of the structure itself. Yes.
Prof, speaking about the direction we're heading in, to what extent are testimonies at Madlanga, at the committee, shaping the political direction that this country is heading in?
Well, I have no doubt, and we can get it from the questions we are listening to at the moment, that people are very much concerned and on a daily basis, we have the one or the other committee in public with serious evidence coming to the fore. And if you look at it politically, you can clearly see that people are dissociated with government structures. There's basically a motion of no confidence. We have seen that in some surveys where the support of certain parties are falling apart even lower than the 2024 national and provincial elections. And I believe at this point in time, there are serious concerns about South Africa's future. I have no doubt that South Africa is at the crossroads. We have reached the point in some ways comparable to the late 80s, where we are in need for creating a new political paradigm to take us forward. Right. And some of the points are mentioned. But to come back to the two questions, the first question, how do you reform a corrupt or a mafia state? That's not an easy job. That's going to be a long-term job, and you are going to take 5 to 10 years to make a cleanup operation. It's not only within the criminal justice system, it is throughout the system, local government, provincial government, non-state entities, and so on. So it is serious. About the second question, the difference between the two committees. I believe that the ad hoc committee was an initiative that came from Parliament because they have an oversight function. Yeah. And their mandate is not exactly that of the Madlanga Commission. The Madlanga Commission was appointed by the President to investigate the allegations made by Makwanasi. But what is interesting is that there are some collaboration between these two initiatives. And I understand that the leaders of both these committees are also collaborating with each other on certain crucial points.
Mr. Zikalala, I just want to touch on some of the terms that are coming out from ad hoc as well as Madlanga. And something that we heard the IDAC head, Advocate Johnson, speaking about. She said in early November 2024, IDAC received a Section 27 referral from the MP Fadil Adams. Help us understand what the Section 27 referral is under the National Prosecuting Authority Act.
You can also equate it to a complaint form. So it's the way in which you are going to make them aware that, I'm Pumelo Zigala, there's a complaint that I would like to file. I have reason to believe that Mr. So-and-so is engaging in corruption. Here's the evidence which I'm going to state under oath. Can you go and investigate? Now, that opens the door for the directorate to then say, because we've now received a complaint, we can then go and request information, ask that person come through and give us any evidence that they might have, and then we take it from there. If we so believe, and even after investigating that there's certainly something that is there that can be prosecutable, then it goes over to the NPA, then the NPA will carry on with the normal process of taking it to court. So it's crucial in this, because without it, you cannot really go in and do your own investigation or on your own accord. You need that Section 27 referral, which is a complaint form, or similar to a complaint form, in order to continue with the investigation. So it was important for her to say, I don't do it on my own volition. I need someone who's going to complain, and after I've received that complaint, then I can take it forward.
Right. We go to the lines 0117140677 7879. Joseph from Sebokeng is on the line. Joseph, very good evening to you.
Yes, good evening. Good evening.
Good evening, Joseph.
And then is it possible can I speak in my language, or maybe you won't understand me?
Go ahead, Joseph.
Yeah?
Go ahead.
Can I carry on with my language? Or
yes, go ahead in your language.
Amen. I can see these people are there, the police and the whatsoever. They've done a very big mistake, and they've wasted our money. Put them in a jail for 10 years, and then publish them on the papers, and then you tell the people and the man on the paper, staff, wherever you can bring them and then they must get in a jail. They've wasted a lot of our money.
Right.
Now our country is now poor. I'm staying in a rubbish place here in Bukit. There is no car which is picking up the dustbin or the rubbish. No lights, no water, nothing else. Put them in the jail.
Right.
Please.
Joseph, thank you very much indeed. Joseph calling us from Sebokeng. We have Zianda from KwaZulu-Natal. Zianda, a very good evening to you.
Hi, how are you, sir?
I'm better than I deserve.
No, great stuff. Mine is more of a question of a layman's question. It's around the fact that how is it that someone has been said that there is some wrongdoing that they have done, and then you'll find that Lamborghinis are taken away. However, the person himself has not been imprisoned or going through a court process. Thank you.
Right. Zianda, thank you very much indeed. Advocate, let me give that to you. And look, stemming from what Joseph is saying as well, people are frustrated, dealing with a lot in terms of the issues around South Africa. Then they're watching what's happening there. Zianda is saying, when you see evidence, when you hear about allegations, why don't you arrest? Unpack for us that complex process of getting that arrest.
Yes. Now, in as far as the arrest is concerned, well, of course, when there are allegations which have been made, of which there are reasonable suspicions that these allegations could be true, then the members of the South African Police Services, they are at liberty to make the arrest. But then the process, of course, it's an entire process of criminal justice system which involves the rights for the accused person as well. For instance, they will have the right to a lawyer, they will have the right to make a bail application. And of course, on the issue of a bail application, I listened to the former Minister of Police, Bheki Cele. He mentioned his frustrations in as far as the bail process is concerned. Perhaps, this is an issue that the lawmakers have got to take into consideration, because indeed you do have offenders or people who are accused of certain allegations who apply for bail, and when they are outside, they continue to do the very same offenses, or there is nothing that stops them actually, from continuing to commit crime. And this creates a very negative perception in as far as the members of the public are concerned, because it gives an impression that, listen, there is impunity here, criminals are doing what they want, they have all those rights. So there has got to be a strengthening of the criminal justice system in as far as the laws are concerned. But then, of course, at the very same time, I'm not advocating for a situation where the rights of those who are accused, because allegations remains allegations at the end of the day, those rights still have got to be protected. Yeah.
Let's go to the socials. I want to hear what you're saying on our socials, on our X platform as well as Facebook. Let's put it up, see what you have to say with regards to our question. And basically asking you, do you think that the evidence emerging from the Madlanga Commission and ad hoc committee is sufficient for law enforcement agencies to take action? This is what you have to say. Let's put it up. Lungiswa says, over sufficient is overflowing. Ntase. Aubrey is saying arrests should be made like yesterday. Too much conclusive evidence against criminals already. Uchakide says, SABC News, it's too much enough, but I don't even know what law enforcement agencies are waiting for. Here again, emphasizing the urgency, one would say. Senekwane says, if we had law enforcement agencies in South Africa, there wouldn't be a need for these commissions. You must remember, this is not the first commission. Let's see what Paul has to say. Paul says, not yet over to comment. There's a lot to come. Let's wait and see. All right, we appreciate your thoughts at SABC at SABC News _TV. That's our X, as well as we on Facebook. Again, Professor, you're seeing the urgency, you're hearing the urgency in people wanting action. Without trust in our law enforcement agency, we can't survive as a nation. Underscore that point.
Well, 100%. I think if we look at what is at the core of any state, it is not democracy as a political system, it is order, stability, and security. And the problem we are facing is not a problem with the system itself, it is a problem with the state as state. And in order to get the state right on track again, we need to make major changes to the system. Therefore, I am pleading for a complete overhaul for the system, what I referred to earlier as at the crossroads. It is a bit of a kairos moment, an opportunity that we need to take in order to take this government forward. And all that I believe the citizens can do, they cannot be involved in the judicial processes, but they have the right to vote. So what is important for them is to vote for the right political party that can take their message forward.
Right.
And the opportunity at the local level will come to the end of next year, I believe.
Something that was very topical, Mr. Zikalala, this week was the alleged attempt on Brown Mogotsi's life. His name has been popping up a lot in terms of the commission, in terms of ad hoc committee. Police are probing this alleged attempt. What do you think law enforcement will be looking at here? What do you make of this?
Firstly, it's the seriousness of it to say this year as a person who still needs to go to these two committees, who's going to provide crucial evidence, is looked at as a person who was the link between the political side and also the other parties that are involved. So his evidence and coming in will have a determination of whether there's undue influence on political appointees or not. So if you then have someone who's very crucial in receiving information from all the committees whose life has been attempted in, you would need to investigate and find out who is this person who's preventing him from coming in and presenting the information. Another person may come in and say they want to check whether it's even true or not, whether it was done deliberately or is it something which is authentic. So those are the type of things which are going to matter the most, because they also want to protect the integrity of the commission and the evidence in which we'll be able to bring. So it's very crucial in terms of these committees. The incidents that have happened over the past week are also very important to say, are we dealing with a case where people are going to be silenced? Is there any other security that needs to be heightened up? Yeah. Or are we dealing with a situation where certain information is fabricated?
Advocate Senzo Mchunu handing over his electronic devices to authorities, is it a significant development, do you think?
Yes, it is. It is important. I think it is part and parcel of the investigation which is currently going on. We can only hope that maybe something positive or tangible evidence will come out of that process, either for the minister who's currently on leave or against him. It's part and parcel of the whole investigation process. Yeah. So that is a good process. It must continue so long as his rights are respected. And yes, so it is a good process, yes.
Prof, we also heard this week that the former Public Enterprise Minister, Dr. Malusi Gigaba, engaging with IDAC. I wonder what you make of this development, and to what extent does this development mark a high-profile test for South Africa's commitment to accountability?
Well, I think it is a very, very important development. We have seen already other people, Brian Molefe and Singh, before court, and now we have Malusi Gigaba. He was one of the key figures within the Zuma administration and directly connected to state capture. So I believe this pattern and the outcome of this is going to be critical important to legitimize the Zondo Commission in some way. But again, we must say there's still a lot to come. If we just look at Jacob Zuma, the first court appearances were around 2005, and he is still on its own, but he will be a very important figure, and action against him can legitimize legal processes and legal investigations. But again, we know there's a high political risk in this context. So the moment you touch on the political side of what I refer to as the mafia state, then it becomes a difficult process. They have the potential to mobilize at the grassroots level. We have seen what happened in 2021 in KZN. I understand that there are again some mobilizations in certain levels. So this is not only for legal action. This will come with severe political implications, and therefore the state need to be ready when they take on political heavyweights, especially people with criminal connections.
Professor, thank you so much indeed for your thoughts. Mr. Zikalala, as well as Advocate Blackie, thank you very much indeed. This conversation continues as we listen on a daily basis to these testimonies coming out. We'll need your better minds back into the program very shortly to break it down for us. But thank you very much indeed for tonight. Appreciate it. All right, before we go, here's my take. Look, you are possibly right that something feels wrong, right? I can't tell you obviously how you feel. So the question then becomes, if that is the case, how do we right the wrongs? A starting point, I think, will be to try and separate fact from feel, right? How do you make sure that you turn all this information that you're getting from the commission, from the committee, into actionable evidence that holds up in court? I know we are relying on the very same system that is under scrutiny. Question, how do we balance justice with public expectations? That answer is for the better minds than mine, except to say that things will only get better if you pay attention to it. Checks and balances, keys to unlocking the better. And that's my take. If you miss anything on this program, then be sure to watch this episode of Topical on YouTube, as well as SABC Plus. Unwrap Africa up next with Tembekile, followed by G20 Focus with Tulasizwe at 8:30. Tonight, the team asking a very pertinent question. Are world leaders willing to end global inequality? Stay tuned for that discussion. If you're watching a repeat of this program, then as always, the news continues. Until next week, my brothers and sisters, take care. Bye-bye.